Episode 1, The Visitor. The storm rolled across the valley, shaking the old house with each crash of thunder. Father Michael sat in his living room, the glow of a weak lamp casting shadows across the worn Bible on the table. He hadn't touched it in weeks. Instead, his hand rested on a glass of whiskey, half empty, his eyes heavy with a guilt he could never quite drown. The knock startled him. 3 sharp raps against the door. Nobody ever came here. Not at this hour, not in weather like this. For a moment, he thought of ignoring it, but the knocking came again, harder this time. Reluctantly, he opened the door. A man stood on the porch, drenched in rain, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. His stare was sharp, almost too sharp, as though he were studying Michael's soul. "You don't recognize me, do you?" the man asked. Michael frowned. "It's late. You're lost." "Not lost," the stranger said. "I came here for you. I need to confess." The word lodged itself in Michael's chest like a blade. Confession. It had been years since he'd worn the collar. Years since he'd taken anyone's sins into his keeping. He stepped aside anyway, and the man entered as if he'd been here before. The storm roared louder outside. Inside, silence stretched between them. The man sat without being asked, leaving puddles on the wooden floor. Michael kept his distance, studying him. "Confessions are heard at the church," Michael said carefully. "Not in my home." A faint, unsettling smile crossed the man's face. "But you left the church, didn't you? You left because of what we did." Michael froze. His hand tightened around the glass. "I don't know what you mean." "Oh, you do." The man leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "We buried the truth once, Father, but the ground doesn't keep secrets forever." Michael's pulse thundered louder than the storm. He searched the man's face, and then recognition struck him like lightning. His mouth went dry, and he whispered, almost afraid to speak the words. "It's you." The stranger leaned back, satisfied. Outside, a bolt of lightning split the night, plunging the house into sudden darkness. And the truth, long buried, clawed its way to the surface, to be continued, unfinished business. The storm pressed against the windows like a living thing, rattling the panes as Father Michael lit a candle to fight the darkness. Its flame flickered, casting jagged shadows across the stranger's face. Michael's voice was tight, controlled. "If you've come to confess, speak it, and then leave me in peace." The man smirked. "Peace? That's rich, Father. You've been running from peace your whole life." Michael's jaw tightened. He had heard confessions of murderers, liars, thieves, but something about this man's tone cut deeper than sin. "Say your piece, then." The stranger leaned forward. "Do you remember the boy?" Michael's chest constricted. He set the whiskey down, afraid a shaking hand would betray him. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You do." The man's eyes gleamed in the candlelight. "You were there. You tried to stop it, but you didn't. You stood and watched, then you buried it like the rest of us." Michael's throat dried. Memories clawed their way back. A night years ago, the echo of screams swallowed by silence, and the pact that followed. He had spent every day since trying to scrub it from his conscience. The stranger pulled something from his coat. A folded photograph, edges yellowed with age. He slid it across the table. Michael stared. 2 boys. Teenagers. Smiling awkwardly in the grainy photo. One of them was Michael, years younger, before the collar, before the vows. The other was the man sitting across from him now. Michael's lips parted, his voice breaking. "It can't be." The man's grin widened, but his eyes burned cold. "It is, and I'm here because the past doesn't stay buried forever. We both know what happened that night." The candlelight trembled as though reacting to the weight of his words. Michael's breath came shallow, his mind racing. For decades, he had carried the memory like a wound, but hearing it spoken aloud after all these years made it fresh, raw, unbearable. The man leaned closer, his voice dropping into a whisper. "The question is, which one of us is finally ready to tell the truth?" Lightning flashed. Thunder roared, and in the space between them, the photo sat like a loaded gun. The photograph! The storm outside raged, but the real violence lived in the silence between the 2 men. Father Michael stared at the faded photograph lying on the table, its surface catching the trembling candlelight. His own younger face stared back at him, innocent, unburdened, beside the stranger's, both frozen in time. But the photograph wasn't just a memory. In the background, blurred but unmistakable, stood another boy. The boy, the one who never left that night alive? Michael's lips trembled. Where did you get this?" The stranger's eyes never left him. "You kept your Bible, I kept this." "Proof. You see, Father, every sin leaves a shadow." Michael felt the walls close in. The years he had buried beneath sermons and silence pressed down on him, suffocating. He tried to steady his voice. "I tried to stop it. You know I did. You tried? The man's smile twisted into something cruel. You watched. You let it happen. And when it was done, you swore to keep the secret. A holy man with dirty hands. Michael slammed his palm against the table, the glass of whiskey toppling, its contents spilling across the wood. Enough! The stranger's smirk vanished. His hand slid slowly beneath his coat, and when it came back up, it wasn't with another photograph. It was with a weapon. Cold steel glinted in the candlelight. Michael's breath caught. You brought that here? I brought it, the man said calmly, because truth needs teeth. He leaned forward, lowering the barrel until it rested lightly against the table, aimed just inches from Michael's hand. We've hidden the past too long. Tonight, we decide who pays for it. Michael's chest tightened, every muscle in his body rigid. The candle flickered violently, as if sensing the shift in the room, and in the silence that followed, the photograph, evidence of the past, and the gun, promise of violence, sat side by side. Two truths, only one could survive the night. The interrogation. The candle guttered in the draft, its flame stretching thin. Father Michael's eyes fixed on the gun resting on the table, the way its black barrel gleamed like a silent accusation. Across from him, the stranger sat perfectly still, gaze unblinking as though he had all the time in the world. This isn't a confession, Michael rasped, his voice dry. This is a threat. The man tilted his head. Confessions are threats, Father. They're weapons. Once spoken, they can't be taken back. He leaned closer, the gun shifting ever so slightly toward Michael's hand. Tell me the truth, or I'll drag it out of you. Michael's heart thudded painfully in his chest. He had spent decades avoiding the details of that night, never allowing himself to replay the events too closely. But now the memories surged, the screaming, the blood, the hurried pact made in shadows. I tried to stop you, he whispered. I begged you to let him go. The man's expression hardened. You begged, yes, but you didn't stop me. And then you helped bury him. Don't paint yourself as righteous. Michael slammed his fist on the table, the candle's flame nearly snuffing out. I was a boy, just a boy, and now you're a man of God, the stranger cut in coldly. But that doesn't wash the blood off your hands. The room filled with silence, thick and suffocating. Michael's breathing quickened, every nerve taut, every instinct screaming to flee. And then a sound. 3 slow knocks at the front door. Both men froze. The stranger's eyes darted to Michael's, searching, suspicious. Michael swallowed hard, his mind racing. Who could be out there at this hour? The knocks came again, louder this time. The stranger gripped the gun tighter. If you called anyone? Michael shook his head quickly. I didn't, I swear. But neither man believed the other. The candle flickered wildly, shadows dancing across the walls as the storm outside gave way to a far more dangerous tension inside. At the door, someone waited. The witness. The knocks echoed through the house, sharp against the storm. Father Michael's breath hitched as he turned toward the door, but the stranger raised the gun and hissed, Don't move! Another knock. This time a voice. Father Michael? Please, open up. It's important. The stranger's eyes narrowed. Who is that? Michael shook his head, genuinely baffled. I don't know. His voice was hoarse. The stranger motioned with the gun. Get the door. Slowly. Michael rose on trembling legs, his shadow stretching long against the wall as he crossed the room. His fingers hesitated on the lock, dread pulsing in his chest. With a shaky breath, he pulled the door open. A young woman stood there, soaked by the rain, her hair clinging to her face. Her eyes darted past Michael and landed instantly on the stranger. Something flickered in them. Recognition. You, she whispered. The stranger stiffened. What are you doing here? Michael glanced between them, confused. You know her? The woman stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Her voice was steady now, almost defiant. I know both of you. I was there that night. Michael's stomach dropped. The room tilted, memories he'd buried clawing back to the surface. No, that's not possible. I saw everything. The woman pressed, her gaze locked on Michael. I was the one hiding in the trees. I saw what you did. All of it. The stranger rose from his chair, gun still in hand. His voice sharpened. Careful what you say. But the woman didn't flinch. Instead, she reached into her coat pocket, and when her hand emerged, she held a small, blinking device. A recorder. You've hidden the truth for long enough, she said. Tonight, it ends. The gun lifted higher. The candle flame danced wildly. And for the first time, Michael realized he wasn't trapped between one ghost from his past. He was trapped between two. The pact. The recorder's red light blinked like a heartbeat on the table. Father Michael's gaze locked on it, his own chest rising and falling in uneven bursts. The storm outside had dulled to a steady rain, but inside the air was thick with danger. The stranger's gun shifted toward the woman. "Turn that thing off." She didn't move. "No, the truth has been buried long enough. Tonight, people will finally know." Michael's hands trembled, his voice cracked. "If you were there that night, then you know it wasn't supposed to happen." "None of it was." Her eyes snapped to him, accusing. "But it did, and you helped cover it up." The stranger stepped forward, his face twisted in anger. "We had no choice. Don't pretend you understand what it was like." The woman's expression hardened. "Oh, I understand perfectly. I saw 2 boys make a pact with the devil that night. One pulled the trigger, the other stayed silent." Michael's knees weakened. The room spun with the weight of her words. Images of the past flooded his mind. The flash of a knife, the boys' terrified cries, the frantic digging of a shallow grave. And then, under the moonlight, 2 trembling teenagers swore never to speak of it again. The stranger turned to Michael, his voice low, almost pleading. "We swore, remember? That night in the woods, we swore to take it to our graves." Michael's eyes glistened. "I remember." His whisper broke. "And I've been living in that grave ever since." The woman slammed her fist against the table, rattling the candle. "And what about him? The one you buried? Has he lived? Has he had peace?" Silence. Only the rain tapping against the windows. The stranger's hand tightened around the gun. Michael could see it trembling, the weight of years cracking his resolve. The pact, their secret bond of silence, was no longer just between the 2 of them. Now, with the woman standing there, recorder flashing, it was unraveling strand by strand. And someone in that room wasn't going to let it survive the night. The betrayal! The gun hovered between the woman and Father Michael, its muzzle trembling as the stranger's breathing grew ragged. The red light on the recorder blinked steadily, every pulse digging deeper into Michael's nerves. "You don't know what you're playing with," the stranger warned, his voice low and dangerous. "Turn it off before you ruin everything." But the woman's hand didn't budge. Her eyes gleamed with a quiet fire. "It's already ruined. People will finally hear what you've hidden." Michael's voice cracked, desperate. "Please, stop this. If the world hears, we'll all burn for it." The woman tilted her head. "That's the point." The stranger lunged forward, but she stepped back swiftly, her coat shifting just enough to reveal something beneath. A wire, a thin black cord tucked against her blouse. Michael's breath caught. The realization hit like a knife. "She's wired," he whispered. The stranger froze, eyes wide. "You're working for them?" The woman's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Every word you've said tonight has been recorded, transmitted. Even now, someone's listening." Michael staggered back, his legs nearly giving out. "Dear God!" The stranger's fury erupted, his voice breaking into a roar. "You've doomed us both." He slammed the table, rattling the candle in the photograph. The gun shook violently in his grip, his whole body trembling with rage. Michael felt his throat tighten. Betrayal cut sharper than any blade. The stranger he had once called a brother was now inches away from murder, and the woman he thought a witness was really a hunter, drawing them into a trap. The room crackled with tension, storm replaced by silence. Only the faint hiss of static from the woman's wire filled the air. The stranger pointed the gun directly at her chest, spittle flying from his lips. "If you're wired, that means the police are listening. That means they'll be here. And if I go down..." His eyes snapped to Michael. So do you," Michael's heart thundered. The pact they had made as boys had finally broken. And now, betrayal would decide who walked out alive. The trap. The room was a powder keg seconds from detonation. The stranger's hand shook around the gun. The woman's recorder blinked relentlessly, and Father Michael stood between them, a man drowning in sins too old to wash away. Then came the sound. Distant sirens, faint but growing louder. The stranger's head snapped toward the window, his eyes wild. "They're coming." The woman's lips curled with grim satisfaction. "You're finished." Michael's knees nearly buckled. No, it can't end like this." The stranger's glare cut to him, sharp as a blade. "You begged me to stay silent, Father. You swore on your soul. And now look at us, trapped like animals." The sirens grew closer, their wail piercing the storm's aftermath. Blue lights flickered faintly against the curtains. Michael pressed his palms together, voice trembling with desperation. "Listen to me. We can end this another way. I'll confess. I'll tell them everything. Just don't spill any more blood tonight." The woman's eyes flicked to him, her expression unreadable. The stranger let out a bitter laugh. "Confess after decades of silence? No one will believe you." "They will if I tell them what you did." Michael shot back, surprising himself with the strength in his voice. "I'll tell them you pulled the trigger. I'll tell them I tried to stop you." The stranger's face darkened. He stepped closer, pressing the cold barrel of the gun against Michael's chest. "You think you can save yourself by damning me?" Michael swallowed hard, eyes wet with fear. "I think it's the only way left." For a moment, time froze. The candle hissed, melting wax dripping onto the table. The siren screamed outside, louder, closer, and then the stranger's decision flashed across his face. Sudden, deadly resolve. "No one leaves alive," he growled. The gun jerked upward. Michael's heart lurched. The woman reached for her pocket, and the door burst open. Floodlights blazed into the room, voices shouted commands, the chaos of authority crashing in. But in that single second before anyone moved, the gun fired. The last prayer. The gunshot split the night like lightning. The candle toppled, plunging the room into chaos. Shouts from outside bled into the thunder of boots rushing up the steps. Father Michael staggered backward, clutching his chest, but there was no blood. His trembling hand searched his body, wild with disbelief. The bullet had missed him. The woman gasped, her recorder tumbling from her hand. A thin wisp of smoke curled from the stranger's pistol. His eyes were wide, furious, unhinged. "Stay down!" voices roared from the doorway. Floodlights cut across the room, blinding, white-hot. Shadows stretched against the walls. The stranger seized Michael, jerking him forward as a shield. One more step, and he dies. Michael's body stiffened, his breath ragged. He could feel the stranger's heart pounding against his back, frantic, desperate. The woman crouched low, edging toward the recorder. Her voice broke with urgency. "It's over! You're surrounded! Shut up!" The stranger roared, pressing the barrel to Michael's temple. His voice cracked, heavy with years of rage and regret. We swore never to tell. If I go down, we all go down with me." Michael's lips quivered, words trembling from deep within. "Please, God, don't do this, not here. Not now." The stranger's grip faltered, if only for a heartbeat. His eyes flickered, a boy again, scared, drowning in the shadows of that night. Michael closed his eyes, whispering softly, the only weapon left to him. A prayer, "Forgive us, Lord. Forgive us for what we've done." The stranger shook his head violently. "Don't pray for me," he hissed. Police voices barked again from the doorway. "Drop the weapon." The candle's flame guttered out, leaving only cold electric light. And then another shot rang out. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The smell of gunpowder clung to the air. Michael's knees buckled. The stranger's grip loosened. One body crumpled to the floor. But in the blinding light, no one could yet see who had fallen. The confession. Silence followed the gunshot, sharp and unbearable. The house seemed to hold its breath. When the light settled and the smoke cleared, Father Michael was still standing, shaken, trembling but alive. At his feet, the stranger lay sprawled on the floor, blood blooming across his shirt. The gun clattered from his hand. The woman straightened slowly, her recorder clutched tight. Police officers stormed into the room, their weapons raised, voices sharp and commanding. But the fight was over. The stranger's lips moved faintly, blood bubbling at the corner of his mouth. Michael knelt beside him, his hand hovering, torn between compassion and fear. You betrayed me," the dying man rasped. His eyes burned with something deeper than rage. Hurt, memory, the fracture of a bond that had once meant everything. Michael's tears fell freely. "We betrayed him. The boy, we betrayed God. We betrayed ourselves." The stranger coughed, a wet rattle in his chest. His eyes rolled back, and then with one last shuddering breath, he went still. The room grew quiet again, broken only by the steady hiss of rain against the windows. An officer's voice cut through. "Father Michael Stowe, you're under arrest for conspiracy and obstruction in connection with the murder of David Cole." Michael closed his eyes. The name, the boy's name, had been spoken at last. A ghost-given voice, they pulled him to his feet, cold steel snapping around his wrists. The woman watched, expression unreadable, the recorder still glowing faintly in her hand. As Michael was led toward the door, he paused. His voice was hoarse, heavy with the weight of decades. "Let me confess." The officers exchanged wary glances, but one nodded. Michael lifted his head, his words spilling out with a strange calmness. "It wasn't him," he said, nodding toward the stranger's body. "He didn't pull the trigger that night." "I did." The woman's eyes widened. The officers froze. Michael's voice cracked as the final truth bled free. "I killed David Cole, and I let my brother take the blame." The weight of his words filled the house, darker than any storm. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Michael lowered his head, whispering softly, not to the officers, not to the woman, but to the silence that had haunted him all his life. "Forgive me." And as dawn broke outside, the truth, buried for decades, finally came into the light. The end.